Hello, listeners. Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Handsome Aaron Airport. No crazy news to report. I didn't get hit by cars. I haven't caught COVID. That's pretty much business as usual here in Halifax. What's going on down there on beautiful Cape Breton Island?
Well, geez, continues to be beautiful. Just came from my sister's birthday dinner.
Oh, that's always so nice to spend time with your family and your loved ones.
You know, it's the kind of thing where it's hard to find words to really express how nice and special and truly pleasurable it is.
Let's not talk about it then. Let's talk about what we're drinking tonight. I have a beautiful glass of Tetley tea, orange pekoe style, typical, I think some people call it black tea. I love it at night, and I love talking while drinking tea. There's something magical about that. What do you got in your mug?
I have another, finishing off my my 6-pack that I had of the No Boats on Sunday vodka sodas. So I got home just from the dinner and I was like, oh, I need something to drink. And the only thing I had was this, or I could have poured a mug of zero sugar 7-Up.
Let's hear what Donna has in her mug. We got a voicemail from a listener specifically about a mug, a Handsome Aaron Airport themed mug. Listen to this.
Okay.
Hey, Jordan and Aaron, it's Donna. I just wanted to let you know that I just got my shipping notification for my Everyone Loves a Little Bitch in the Background mug. I'm so excited for this mug. You don't even know, because I certainly do appreciate a little bitch in the background. It makes the show so interesting, and I don't even mind when he does a quick Google search. So anyway, take care, guys. All the best.
Whoa.
Yes,
Whoa.
It is true. Diane inspired me. I made shirts modeled after, merch modeled after her catchphrase, everyone loves a little bee in the background. Donna got it on a coffee mug. She got her shipping notice. And Donna, if you email me your mailing address, I'll send you some stickers that you can stick on your other mugs to make them all special. Aaron, how does it feel to have people drinking out of mugs themed after people who hate you?
Yeah, it's conflicting feelings. But the one thing I want to really spend some time on that Donna mentioned was she doesn't mind if we Google, but I appreciate the Google olive branch that she's extending towards us. But I think if we were Googling all the time and we were becoming quite knowledgeable about all these different subjects, we'd be dancing towards being like a podcast of stuff you should know, which was a recommended podcast by my enemy, Diane. So
yeah, no, I think us Googling and learning new things is just opening Pandora's box. I don't think we need to revisit this topic. I say, Donna, enjoy your mug, but stop interfering with how we do things here.
Yeah. You can be a correspondent, certainly. I think that mug that Donna's going to enjoy wouldn't exist if we Googled.
That's true.
Because he would not have angered Diane.
That's true. And we don't need Google because we have correspondents all over the country to let us know what's going on in their backyards, like Kelsey did. A listener named Kelsey from Washington in the United States let us know about a Canadian news story that we missed. Here's what Kelsey had to say.
Hi, Jordan and Handsome Aaron Airport. This is your correspondent, Kelsey, from Tacoma, Washington, in the United States. This news clip that I saw reposted on Instagram this morning is from June, but it is the first example I feel I've seen on the podcast of humans actually aiding in the animal uprising. And I saw a clip about a couple in British Columbia that is teaching their pet rats how to drive vehicles. And come on, that would be killer for the animal uprising if rats could be able to drive vehicles. So I'm surprised you guys haven't talked about this, and I think you really need to look it up. Thanks, and I love the show.
So, Aaron, is it possible that there was a news story about somebody training rats how to drive cars that we missed back in June. Could that happen?
Well, it had to have happened because our correspondents would never lie to us. So,
And they don't. It did happen on June 25th, a story about a Squamish, BC couple's tale of pet adoption aired. Somehow we missed it. The couple was initially looking at adopting a dog, but for reasons you'll hear shortly, they opted to go with rats. And yeah, they're teaching them how to drive a car successfully. Listen to the story.
We need to go back to when she and her partner, Sean Stevens Whale, decided to adopt a pet.
We were looking at potentially getting a dog.
But then both Sean and Kendall happened to hear about the potential similarities between dogs and rats, visited an animal shelter, and met Kronk.
He kind of looked like a rat you'd find in a sewer.
Kronk had had a rough life before being rescued, but there was something about the way that he had bonded with another rat named Cusco.
Welcome, Kronk and Cusco, into our lives.
As soon as the rats felt safe, the next step was making them feel happy.
Rats, they thrive on enrichment. Spin, like a good boy.
Like a dog looks forward to going for walks or chasing balls, the rats relished learning every new trick Kendall and Sean taught them, from solving puzzle boxes to pulling ropes.
They were really everything that I could have ever hoped for in a pet.
And while it wasn't a surprise that they celebrated Halloween by dressing up as characters from Ratatouille, they never expected that Kendall's dad would celebrate her birthday by building little electric cars for the rats to learn how to drive in.
I did not think they were going to figure anything out.
But after Cusco and Kronk learned how to press a pedal to move forward on the first day, Sean and Kendall were committed to teach them how to use their paws to turn left and right, which the rats mastered after about a week.
Their ability to conceptualize where they are, just as humans do when they're driving, is pretty incredible.
Their experience of the world is so much deeper than we realize.
They're creative, they're smart, they're affectionate.
If our using Google is opening Pandora's box, this couple in Squamish, BC, teaching these rats to drive vehicles certainly is opening Pandora's box. Does this concern you at all, or do you think this is regular behavior?
no, it's extremely concerning. I don't think this couple realizes or listens to this show, so they don't realize that the animal uprising is a thing. It's real. They're just handing over ammunition to the animals here, teaching them skills. So now the animals are going to be able to drive our Teslas.
They could probably drive the Teslas now. Aren't they self-driving?
Yeah, I guess they would be, but once the animals take over, I mean, the power grids could go down.
That's true.
So they could have to resort back to gas, I guess. But
yeah, I guess what we got to look out for is someone training animals to run a gas station.
yeah, or just understand what gas is.
Yeah, that'll be an issue.
Yeah, it's alarming. It's concerning. I'm worried about it. I think it's going to expedite the animal uprising. We haven't talked about the animal uprising for a while on this show. We were
hard at it, but what happened is we kind of got sidetracked with a few other large projects. Like, of course, we've been working on getting the attention of Robin's Donuts. That kind of took us by surprise. And then we had a couple just big stories playing out. But I think after this week's episode, we're going to have time to focus back on stories from our past, like the animal uprising, and dig back into that. Because tonight is going to be a sort of season finale. As it worked out, a couple of stories that we've been covering recently are all reaching natural conclusions or have significant updates that we're going to talk about in tonight's episode. And it's odd the way this is going to come together, and you'll see what I mean as we kind of unpack and unfurl the episode here. This week's Weird News Roundup largely covers past stories. Let's start with an update to the Tim Hortons drive-thru road rage story that we've talked about. And something I'll need you to do, because we'll need this throughout the episode. Can you do one of those like previously on Keep Canada Weird?
Sure, I can do that. Yeah. Previously on Keep Canada Weird.
On our September 17th episode of Keep Canada Weird, we heard about a road rage incident in Mission, BC that began in a Tim Hortons drive-thru and ended with two maniacs with baseball bats attacking their victim and their car.
It was Sunday morning around 10. Parkhill and her boyfriend were at a drive-thru when they honked their horn at the vehicle in front.
Sure enough, he turned around, started swearing some stuff at us and flipped us off, and he moved forward a little bit, put his car in park, started to light a cigarette in the drive-thru and started swearing at us some more. So as you can see here, this is where she smashed this passenger side window. Caused quite a bit of damages to my car and my girlfriend's face.
There are several dents on the hood of the car after being hit with a baseball bat, and bloodstains are still on the driver's door. Mission RCMP later released photos of the suspects who are still at large.
We have some serious updates on this story. I'm going to play you initially a news story that may seem unrelated, and then I'll tell you what's going on here. This is the story of a shooting last week in Langley, BC. Here it comes.
Around 6 o'clock on Saturday evening, gunfire rang out in an otherwise quiet part of Langley at 196th Street and 84th Avenue.
Bang, 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 bang. And then a couple more, and then I could hear him driving away. Bang, 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 bang.
This witness, who didn't want to show his face for safety reasons, lives steps away and heard it all.
I heard the shots, and it was about 15 minutes later I heard the siren come around here.
First responders found 2 victims, both men. Despite life-saving efforts, one of them died at the scene. The other was injured but is expected to survive. The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team has now taken over the case, with investigators quick to assure the public the incident was targeted.
It's very concerning. This ongoing gang conflict is going on for a while now. To the residents and the community, I say, you know what's around you. Please pay attention.
The deceased was known to police. His identity is expected to be released on Monday.
So as you hear there, we hear the story of a kind of gangland drive-by type shooting that leaves one man dead in Langley, BC. At the time of that article being aired, the victim in that shooting was unidentified, but it was said they were known to police. Listen to this article that I'm going to read that came out the next day. An Edmonton man, Jonathan Hebrata Walters, was identified as the victim of a September 21st shooting in Langley, BC. He had been a suspect in a brutal baseball bat attack on a young couple in Mission, BC, just 2 weeks earlier. Mission RCMP confirmed that Hebrata Walters was identified as the suspect in a photo released after the September 8th Tim Hortons drive-thru attack. Meanwhile, Hebrata Walters' accomplice in the Tim Hortons road rage attack, a 35-year-old from Edmonton named Amber Janelle Toes, has been charged with assault and mischief, and a nationwide warrant is out for her arrest. So the long and short of it is, this guy is in the news for the Tim Hortons attack. He's the guy we saw in the video on our September 17th episode where he's just a complete maniac attacking this guy who honked at him in the drive-thru. Unrelated to that, he gets shot and killed, and that's in the news as a national story. I think this is just another reason why you don't honk at someone that's driving weird in front of you, is it could be this dangerous gang member, which seems to be what happened to them.
Well, if this in the Tim Hortons incident, so it was a baseball bat that the individual in question here had used, and not like a gun or anything. So you would think if this person was heavily involved in gang activity, that they would have a firearm with them. So why wouldn't they have branded the firearm in the Tim Hortons scenario?
Yeah, that's a good question, but maybe it was unnecessary, because if you're going after 2 unarmed people with a
but
bat,
unnecessary is not a term that comes across somebody who's in a gang and is enraged over being honked at.
That's true.
They don't look at the disposable weapons that they have in front of them and say, what's the most necessary weapon to use?
That would be too far.
Hold on. I am angry, but let me use my proper judgment here before I react. If they had a gun on them, they would have just grabbed the gun and at least threatened the person with the gun.
Yeah, that is.
Show them that they had it and show them that they mean business and that they're tangling with someone who is not to be trifled with.
Yeah. Well, I think the baseball bat showed that. In the news clip from September 17th, this guy looks completely unhinged, overcome with rage. The still image that was being spread through the news about that attack at the Tim Hortons or near the Tim Hortons, he looked terrifying. I think the baseball bat is just a more primitive and I think more terrifying weapon. If a maniac is coming at you with I don't know. What's scarier? You're
A
trapped
gun
in a
is 100% scarier, but I mean, I have a theory of what happened here.
Okay.
So
if your theory is that the Tim Hortons honking was gang related, I'm shutting off.
No, are you? That's the straw that breaks the back of the camel in this.
That's it.
In this relationship with you and me, after all we've been through over the years.
This is it. It'll be me and Diane next week.
Yeah. Well, you can start a podcast with Diane, and you guys can smoke cigarettes and yell at the moon together.
People would listen.
I'd listen.
Yeah. Okay. What's
you want to know what I think? Okay, so in the first incident, we have the suspect in question is in the drive-thru, and the victims are behind the individual. The suspect is not moving. They're whatever, kind of doing their own thing in the drive-thru, and the people behind them, they honk, and this enrages the man. He gets out, he's got his baseball, the chase happens or whatever. He brings the baseball bat into the equation, and next thing you know, we're covering it on Keep Canada Weird.
Okay.
But later on, either, probably 2 weeks later, this shooting was something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So around 2 weeks later, this guy's in a Tim Hortons drive-thru again. And he's stalled again in the drive-thru for whatever reason,
He's on his phone.
He's on his phone. He's changing his oil, whatever it is that's happening that has him stalled in the drive-thru. The person behind him at this point in time, 2 weeks later, has the same instinct and honks the horn. Toot, toot. And the person honking the horn this time is a gang member. So then the warning has to be reversed here, where you're warning people, be careful who you honk at. This guy needed to be warned, be careful who you get mad at for honking at you, because it happened to be a gang member. The guy gets mad, maybe he brandishes the baseball bat again as his go-to, and then the gang member guns him down.
Yeah, if they want to solve this crime, go through CCTV footage from every Tim Hortons in BC, listening for honks. Hopefully they have audio on the CCTV cameras. You hear a honk? That's not a bad theory, Aaron. I'll give you that.
Thanks. Are we still friends?
We're good.
Okay, good.
But this isn't the only update. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to revisit a topic that had a lot of people talking, and that is the story of the woman who was charged with assault with a weapon for shooting someone with a water gun. I'm going to need it again, Aaron. Could you give me a previously on Keep Canada Weird?
Previously on Keep Canada Weird.
In our September 17th episode, we shared the story of the Simcoe, Ontario water gun attack. The initial story, told entirely by folks on one side of the incident, was that during a block party, Wendy Washik accidentally sprayed a water gun at a man while she was playing with neighborhood children. And as a result, she was charged with assault with a weapon.
On this quiet street in Simcoe, people are shaken by what's happened, especially Wendy Washik. Wendy says she was at a neighborhood party on the Labor Day weekend when she started playing with a 10-year-old and water guns.
I was pumping the water in the gun, trying to figure out the gun, and trying to spray them at the same time. And unfortunately, while I was doing that, I hit the neighbor that was maybe 3 feet away from me. He was out cutting his grass, and the water hit his chest.
Then the police showed up and say Wendy was arrested. A Norfolk County OPP release said the incident resulted in the victim being physically assaulted. Wendy was charged with assault with a weapon. She's upset the release had no mention that the so-called weapon was a water gun.
We got some updates here. The victim speaks. He spoke to CBC News. Here's what he had to say.
What was described as a harmless accident looks more planned from surveillance video. Wendy Washik waves to Shehan Rochester, who refuses to respond.
She was at the end of the gate giving me this Cheshire smile and waving at me. Every time I'd come down with the mower, she'd wave at me. It was very strange and creepy, to be honest with you.
She appears to ask a child for a water gun and disappears from sight. The alleged assault happens off camera, but the aftermath is heard. To the victim, it was more than a harmless prank. Regardless of the method used, he was sure of the intent.
It was to kind of strip me of my my integrity, right? Strip me of my dignity.
He says it's part of a campaign of ongoing harassment and collective bullying that goes back for years. And he says it's racially motivated.
I feel like we're targeted here, and I have a young family, and I have to do what I have to do, and my wife has to do what we have to do to protect our young family.
He's called the police 14 times. And he says the harassment has escalated since the story has gone viral to threats of violence. But he says he won't be intimidated into leaving.
Well, why should I? You know, at the end of the day, I was here first. We have a right to live here. This is Canada.
Washik stands by her story. She says she was having a playful water gun fight with a child at a party when she accidentally sprayed water on the neighbor. And she says she has no issue with Rochester.
I've never spoken to him other than, going on my way to say hi for him to ignore me.
Washik says she cannot return to her job as an educational assistant until the case is settled.
We're suffering a lot for a little bit of water.
If the charges aren't dropped and barring any out-of-court resolution, the facts of this case will be heard in this courthouse. Washik's next court date is just before Christmas, which means this court case could extend into the next year.
So I want to recap one part of that news clip, because one part of it's very visual, is when they're introducing the story, they're using video from his Ring doorbell or security camera or something of that nature. And you see him going up and down his front lawn mowing the way someone would. And the woman Wendy Washik, she's standing on the other side of his fence with a weird look on her face and just kind of waving at him. To me, she seems to be kind of something between taunting and trolling him. She's just standing there I don't know what she's doing. The way he described it is she had a creepy look on her face. When I look at the video, yeah, it's pretty weird. If I'm mowing my lawn and someone is just standing there waving at me like a weirdo, I'd be a little confused, I guess, at least. But his version of the story is that the people in the neighborhood have a beef with him for whatever reason. She was doing what she did. She went and got a water gun and came back and sprayed him, which is very different than what she described. Are you surprised to hear this?
I'm not surprised. In this story and with this update, I think we still need a third party to give us the down the middle story here, because
and maybe it's the kid, the kid whose water gun out. If maybe that kid wouldn't lie. You could just say, "Why did she get your water gun?" That kid maybe would say, "Well, she wanted to spray the neighbor we all hate."
Yeah. I don't know. I'm starting to think here that we're not going to get a truthful account from either side in this story. His doesn't really make a lot of sense either.
Mm-hmm. But at least he has the video to show that her version of the story is, I think his video shows that her version of the story is wrong.
Yeah, it certainly does show that her version of the story is not the way that she told it. But also his version of the story doesn't really add up either. She stood there waving at him and then she shot him with a water gun eventually. So if that's true,
off camera. And it's off camera, sadly.
It's off camera. So it's okay, well, let's say that is 100% true. Why call the police over being sprayed by water? Your life is not in danger. You're not really being assaulted. He's using terms like bullying and these types of things.
Strip me of my, I think he said dignity or something.
Yeah.
But I have no problem with that. I think if your neighbors are in fact bullying you, it's one thing to ignore you and not like you. But if it gets to the point that they're coming and spraying you with water guns, then I think that's crossing the line. I don't know if she should have the book thrown at her for assault with a weapon, but you can't do that to people.
No, I probably wouldn't call the police over that. But it sounds like there's a history here between these two neighbors. And we just like, wasn't it 14 times I heard in the news
that he's called police.
He's called police 14 times.
Yeah,
on her specifically, or the neighbors?
No, on the neighbors. And Wendy Washik isn't a neighbor. I believe she was visiting like for this block party. So it's not like she's like his next door neighbor. Maybe she's from the community or something. But he has beef like with the people right around him, it seems.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a voicemail because a listener sent us a voicemail specifically about this incident. And I think she has what she has to say, I think mirrors my opinion on it. Here she comes. Audrey.
Hi, Jordan and Aaron. This is Audrey from Quadra Island. I feel compelled to send a message this week because I was surprised at a point in one of the news stories that Aaron didn't comment on, that either of you picked up on. So at first, I feel as a first-time caller, I need to deal with some of housekeeping that I've been thinking about for a while. A few of the things I need to talk to about first would be, I am a huge proponent of Jordan Bus Stop Bonaparte. And two, I too thought Aaron was a bit of a little bitch when I first started listening, and I almost didn't continue listening. And I didn't really understand the way Aaron's mind works. I still don't, but I appreciate it now, and I love his insight. We're all a little bitch at heart, for sure. So the reason I'm calling or messaging is because in the talking about the assault with the water pistol, neither of you pointed out the fact that it was a neighborhood block party and this guy is mowing his lawn. I think that speaks to the kind of person he is immediately, right out of the gate, if he wasn't actually attending said block party and he's part of that block. Anyway, I should probably start listening to your other podcast because I like this one so much, but I just haven't done that yet. I hope you guys have a great day and all that stuff that people say at the end of these messages.
Do you want to tackle any of the things she said unrelated to the watergun assault?
Well, she's a proponent of Jordan Bus Stop Bonaparte, not you personally. She's a proponent of that nickname of you, because that was something that you protested when I originally wanted to start calling you Jordan Bus Stop Bonaparte.
Okay.
So I think I needed to add some clarity to that point that she made in the voicemail about your nickname.
Okay.
And then also the mowing the lawn thing during the block party is a good point.
And the fact that he's not at the block party. Presumably, the majority of the block is there attending, socializing. He isn't. He's also outside mowing his lawn. And I think if we got to know everybody involved in this, we would probably see people on both sides irritating and agitating people on the other side.
Both sides, to me, look suspicious. That's currently where I stand on this story. I don't trust either side right now, and there's been no information that I've seen yet that has me leaning one way or the other. So
we're undecided.
Undecided on this one. I'm sitting on the fence still. Certainly when we first heard the story, I was like, there's got to be more to this than just this woman's.
Yeah.
You know.
and now we're like, there's more to this and we still don't know. I just think there's toxic stuff between neighbors all over the place, but when it crosses the line when you do something like spray a water gun at someone. That being said, I'm not like supporting like assault with a weapon, but I do think that she's screwed up. I want to play one last update related to this story, then we can move on. You remember Wendy Washik was crowdfunding through GoFundMe to hire lawyers to fight this. One short update related to that as well. Like, things aren't going good for Wendy Washik. Listen to this.
The Simcoe woman who's been charged with assault with a weapon over a water gun incident. Her family now says they've been let down again after GoFundMe pulled the plug on their online fundraiser. Jeff, first of all, do we know why the fundraiser was suddenly pulled?
Tony, the Washik family says that things were going fairly well with GoFundMe's. Then late last week, GoFundMe gave the Washik family a call and told them because Wendy's charges were criminal charges, they'd have to put an end to their campaign.
Washik says GoFundMe has sent most of the money they raised prior to the cancellation of their page, but without knowing how long the legal saga could last, they have opened another fundraiser on the platform, Give, Send, Go.
Yeah, so just kind of, I guess it goes from bad to worse. But it sounds like she at least got a bunch of money out of it. But yeah, I don't know what kind of legal fee she's going to have fighting a criminal charge, because I imagine most of this will be negotiations before trial, if there is one. But either way, just a big difference now versus September 17th when we originally discussed this story.
Yeah, in the original story, she was painted as the victim in this entire thing. It's like when you have two parents that are going through divorce and they're both kind of fighting for your affection, and you just don't know which way to turn, and you just don't know who to trust. And I don't feel like I can trust anybody right now between these two parents of mine.
Wendy and the guy who got sprayed with the water gun.
Yeah,
Your father.
Or as I look at them, as some crazy woman and some crazy guy.
Before we have our next ad break, I want one more voicemail here. This is, remember last week we heard about a place called Osoyos?
Well, that's how you tried to pronounce it. Yeah.
A listener named Tandy from Osoyos sent a voicemail about our coverage of their community. And they didn't bash me on how I pronounced it. Listen to this.
Hello, handsome Aaron Airport and Jordan. It's Tandy calling from Osoyos or Osoyos, however you want to say it. I still love the story about the house that's taken many years to be something. I drive by it every day, and I've been wondering what's going on there. There'd be flowers in pots outside, and somebody's still kind of living in an RV inside it. Anyway, it's been kind of a ongoing, just something I've just been watching. And so to hear it on your podcast was very, very cool. This is a small town, small place, and yet you still don't know what's going on. Anyway, thank you for the story. Bye.
I think the people in that town, they probably know the name of the town super hard to pronounce. So she's completely cool. Like, Osoyos, whatever you want to say. We go with anything. It's weird the way it's spelled, so.
Yeah. I don't know if it's weird the way it's spelled, I guess, but
no, it
certainly at
is.
first glance, you have to really think about how am I going to say this? And yeah, the answer doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
No, but I'm glad I can help bring like a hometown story to someone who drives by this weird unfinished house every day. See, that's just another update on a past story. I guess the update being people in Osoyos also notice the house that was on the news. Breaking.
Yeah. The news didn't cover it for no reason at all.
We got a big story coming up here. This one I'm excited to talk to you about. I'm going to call this segment, this is not a past story we're revisiting. This is fresh, unfiltered, weird Canadian news. We're going to call this London, Ontario's Party House. Give you a bit of background here. The battle for stricter rules on short-term rentals like Airbnb is being fought across Canada. But the front line for this war has suddenly shifted to the London, Ontario neighborhood of Masonville after a video posted online shows a long lineup of scantily dressed young women being dropped off by the busload waiting to enter a short-term rental, which neighbors claim is often used as a party house. Here's the news story of London, Ontario's hottest ticket.
Well, Jacqueline, let me take you to this neighborhood. So it's a couple of kilometers from Western University. It's a quiet street. It's single family residential homes, pretty big houses, houses with 4 or 5 bedrooms. But not a place where you would find parties. It's more of a family street. Now, this weekend, as you can see, there were busloads of sorority girls that were dropped off at this house. Neighbors said they woke up at 9 in the morning and up pulled a school bus full of young women dressed up. They would kind of wait in the driveway to get instructions from a couple of other girls. Then they would wait for more instructions, go inside, come out about an hour later and come out chanting some kind of sorority song and marching around. They'd wait for about 20 minutes. Another busload would pull up, drop off 30, 40 more girls, and take the ones that had already been inside away. So this was just the latest, like you said, it was kind of the tipping point for neighbors. They had been dealing with this property for about 2.5, 3 years. They've seen bachelor parties where strippers have shown up. They've had sports teams rent the property, multiple families who are here for sports games, here in London for sports games. There's a pool in the property, so lots of pool parties, and neighbors say that the sound really carries quite a lot, and it's also got some kind of surround sound music system. There's also a home theater in the basement, so
Movies.
lots of party stuff in this house.
What are you hearing from the owners of that house and from Airbnb?
So the owner says he didn't realize that there would be hundreds of sorority girls being dropped off there. He says he bought the house in 2020 for about $670,000. His family couldn't stay there. He's been trying to sell it. He's actually a realtor here in town. Most recently for $1.2 million. It sat on the market. He couldn't sell it. He says he needs to rent it out to pay the mortgage. Airbnb has not responded to my email requests for comment about this.
So much to say about that report. Before we get into the like what actually happened with this lineup of sorority girls down the sidewalk and busloads of them coming and chanting this sorority chant, which I can only imagine was like, "Keep Canada weird, keep Canada weird." I like when the news reporter was breaking down like the antisocial things that happened in this house. Like there were strippers, there were sports teams were renting this place, and then she said families who were going to sports games.
Yeah.
And there was an entertainment center in the basement.
Yeah, there's a pool, so there's people swimming, and there's a home theater, so people are watching movies in there, and there's a kitchen, 2 bathrooms, 2 showers, and people taking showers and washing their hands after they pee. These are the most jealous neighbors I've ever heard of in my life. They're just like constantly staring at all the amenities of this house and just being like, God, that house has everything and I have nothing.
Yeah, I think if anything, this is just a bad ad for the real estate agent who owns this house. That's a problem for all the people around it, yet he can't sell it.
Yeah, I love the fact that he's like, oh, well, I bought the house and then we couldn't stay there, so I decided to try and sell the house and I couldn't sell it. And then they reveal that he's also a real estate agent.
Yeah.
He's
I
like,
had no idea there was
I'm
going
just
to be.
bad at everything I do. I'm bad at my job. I'm bad at my Airbnb. I can't keep it together, but I do have a home theater that you can watch movies
in the basement. It just does not a good look for him. Luckily, they didn't name him, although I'm sure the people in that neighborhood know. But if they had have used his name on the news, that would have been.
I'd love to check out his realty site and just see that nothing has ever sold, ever.
Mm-hmm. It's all for rent.
Everything is for renting to sororities. That's what I'm reduced to.
Yeah, it's the clips going around though of all the girls outside. I don't know what I think of that. That shouldn't be in a neighborhood, I guess. Like if you rent an Airbnb in a residential neighborhood, it's for residential purposes. This was more renting it for a special event. This should have been done at I don't know, like where you would have an event that involves hundreds of people, like at a hall somewhere. There shouldn't be school buses.
But that could possibly fall on the shoulders of the person who was booking the Airbnb. What was their star rating when they booked? Were they 5 stars?
Yeah, they got a 1 star. It's like they rented my house and had busloads of sorority girls show up. People will see that and be like, that's a fake review.
Yeah. Does he have no chanting on his Airbnb ad? So if he didn't have no chanting, then he can't really blame anybody but himself. But
yeah, I guess.
I don't know. But the neighbors too are an issue here. This seems like a neighborhood where if somebody squirts you with a water gun, they call the police. That's the kind of neighborhood I think we're dealing with here. So it would be weird to see the sororities. But I mean, if that was happening every day with sororities, then I'd be like, okay, that's an issue. But if it was just one time where they used it for a sorority event, and the only real thing they were doing was just like buses dropping off girls and then picking them up and some chanting in the middle of the day.
It did say there was like a march. They did like a chanting and a little march.
Yeah, but that doesn't strike me as a if it only happened the once, and then every other time they had a problem, it was like families renting this Airbnb to go to sports games and swim in the pool. It sounds like they're probably going to complain no matter what, but there just happened to be this one really weird thing that happened that they're like, okay, finally we can get the news involved. Finally, we can maybe get some justice.
Let's move on to our final update for the week. This may be the conclusion of a storyline that has been stretching out over the last 3 weeks. Can I get one more previously on Keep Canada Weird?
Previously on Keep Canada Weird.
In our September 17th episode, we heard from a listener named Diane who hated you, Aaron. She called you horrible names. A week later, she returned to express her opinion that other podcasts are better, and she even raised suspicions on why she was unable to find a photo of the allegedly handsome Aaron Airport online.
Okay, I think Aaron Airport is like a little bitch, and we don't even know what he looks like. He might look like a little piece of shit. And I think Stuff You Should Know is such a better podcast than yours because they deal with facts.
As I mentioned in last week's episode, I sent an email to Diane. I offered to mail her some Keep Canada Weird stickers that she could do what she want with, as well as a picture of you in exchange for a review from her of what you look like. At the time of last week's episode, we had not received a response back from Diane. I do have a response, and I think this will likely conclude our back and forth with Diane, but sadly, it wasn't a voicemail. I think I threw a wrench in the whole thing by sending her an email, because then she responded to my email. She didn't send in a new voicemail, but I still need to read this. Are you ready to hear what Diane had to say when I offered her your photo?
Yeah, I'm ready for it. It's just strange, but I'm ready.
Okay. Diane's responses or communications with us have always been interesting. The latest message, which I suspect may be one of the last, is also interesting. I offered to send her stickers and a photo of Aaron. Her response to that email says LMAO, which stands for laughing my butt off. I did look you guys up. Aaron is actually a good-looking guy. Guess some of the stuff I said was a joke and sarcastic. I was venting on some stupid stuff he was saying. I shouldn't have called him names. Tell him I apologize for what it's worth. Happy podcasting to you both. Diane.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah. I wish we could get to the bottom and get some clarification on exactly what it was that I was saying that set her off.
Yeah. And I responded to that message saying, like, can you just send us a voicemail to explain, give us a bit more information of what you thought what he looked like and whatever. She didn't respond to that. I knew sending her an email, poking the bear, I kind of felt like it wasn't the right thing to do. And I was worried she'd respond in an email because I wanted to hear her voice. But I think this is the best we're going to get. But it's something like an apology. So I think it's a natural conclusion to that exchange.
Yeah, it's a natural conclusion, and I'm thankful for Diane's words and Diane's apology, and I'd like to again apologize to Diane, actually. Apologize for upsetting her in whatever way that I did, and I've been losing a lot of sleep over this, and the merch is now flying off the shelves, the Diane merch that we have.
Yeah, that's one positive that came out of this is we're getting pools put in. I'm getting a new water gun. Now, let me ask you this. In tonight's episode, we did reach a conclusion or have significant updates in several stories we covered, but there's one story that hasn't had a conclusion that we've been covering over the past few weeks. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, I mean, you're putting me on the spot here, but
I'll give you a hint. It's a Canadian company we're trying to raise the profile of.
Well, there's only one Canadian company that we've been pursuing as of late, and
you're talking about the sort of guerrilla marketing campaign that we've been...
The guerrilla marketing campaign for what I think is the most iconic, the most Canadian coffee shop in this entire nation, with the best product, the best staff, you know, from the bricks that they use in their buildings to the style of their menus, the sprinkles on the donuts. I think Robin's Donuts.
You're talking about Robin's Donuts. I can't say too much, but I will say that the campaign by the Keep Canada Weird Army to contact Robin's Donuts and get them hip to what we're doing may be about to bear some fruit. Let's just say that there's a little meeting coming up in a couple days, and something may be happening. Something unprecedented, something that may be a first in the history of new media, like podcasting. But we can't say anything about it now, other than to say next week's episode may be a little special.
Yeah, it's again, there's a lot of weight in this announcement that you're talking about. There's a lot of pressure involved. There's a lot of fingers being crossed here, but certainly next week we're going to be able to shed a lot of light on this story and have hopefully a satisfying conclusion.
It's going to be exciting, but we've said too much. Let's stop. Let's wrap this up. We can put a bow on this episode. We've done our job here tonight by keeping Canada weird, by seeking out, celebrating, exploring, unpacking, wrapping around ourselves weird Canadian news stories from the past week. Handsome Aaron Airport, until next time.
Jordan, until next time.
It's October. Halloween's in the air. We got to start finding some spooky, weird Canadian stories. And I got my eye on a few.
You got your eye on a few scary stories, Dian.
Spooky, weird stories, not scary.
Not scary. Okay, you're not in it for the scares.
Although that's being said, we will do our annual Keep Canada Weird Haunted Listener Special, where myself, yourself, and Madeleine Klein listen to listener-contributed scary stories of ghosts and hauntings. So if anyone listening has a spooky story, go to nighttimepodcast.com and share it with us.
Yeah, send in your spooky stories, and what I call the perfect triangle will be commenting on all of your stories when you send them in. And Jordan, until next time, I'd like a listener to call in and berate you in some kind of fashion, and get some merchandise that we could have kind of reflecting that opinion.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird, but we can use even greater support in this. If something weird happens in your neck of the woods, or if you have any thoughts, theories, or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we'd love to hear about it. The best way to reach us and become a Keep Canada Weird correspondent is by using the voice recorder at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. We're excited to hear from you. Now I'm going to start wrapping things up, but before I do, let me end with some thanks. First, a big thanks to Aaron for sharing another great evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A big shout out to Unicole, who provides the intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data, who provides the outro version of O Canada. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. And on the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Dave, Jennifer, and Megan, thank you for going premium. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show in this way, our premium feed subscription costs just a couple dollars a month, and that money funds the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those episodes 2 days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a full back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium right now at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. And if the premium feed's not for you, but you still want to support the show, you can do that by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know why you listen. Your support means everything to us. Now, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.
And now to our viewers and listeners everywhere. Good night.
One last thing we got to do. Story of the week. I think the water gun assault and its continued weirdness. I think it's exactly the type of story that we can dig deep into. That's my story of the week again.
I'm going to go with a different story. Not that I don't think that yours is the story of the week, but just to offer another side of the coin here. I think the Tim Hortons drive-thru update is going to be my story of the week, because that really went down a road that I wasn't expecting. And we got quite a conclusion to it. A murder. It's how often does that happen in a story we cover?
It's a pretty dramatic conclusion, a pretty dramatic update, but wow, yeah, I didn't see that coming either. Multiple listeners had reached out to me saying, did you hear what happened? Like the update in the Tim Hortons drive-thru attack. But yeah, shocking. But again, don't beep at people in front of you, because God knows what they're like. And
also do not go after the person who beeped at you, because you never know who they are.
Right. If someone beeps at someone, both parties should be terrified and flee.
Yeah, leave your cars, run out, and both of you leave your cars empty. It's like that REM video, Everybody Hurts, where everybody starts kind of leaving their cars and walking away. That's what everybody should do in every Tim Hortons drive-thru, no matter what's happening. Place your order and then leave the car.